Morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us this morning. It is October 13th, 2020, and this is the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting and work session, and we have a packed agenda today. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board, and also present is the vice chair, Commissioner Tim Menser, and Commissioner Gary Edwards, County Manager Ramiro Chavez, and I see our County Treasurer, Jeff Gadman, with us. I don't see anybody else on the screen, so if you want to tell me who else is here. I see we have Director of Public Health and Social Services, Shelley Slaughter. Shelley, do we have Dr. Abdulmalik? Oh, there she is, just right on cue, our County Health Officer. So if you'd like to join us via conference call and listen in, the phone number is 360-252-9020, and your PIN is 1234. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and kick it off with a COVID-19 update. Director Shelley Slaughter, go ahead, please. Good morning.
Thank you so much, sir. Good morning, commissioners. Cases across Washington state continue to rise, especially in the Pacific Northwest here, with 93,035 cases in the state of Washington as of the latest available data yesterday. There have been 2,190 deaths of Washingtonians. Here in Thurston County, we have continued to see a rise as well. We have had our highest 2 weeks of cases ever since this pandemic began, with 1,446 cases of COVID-19 and 116 of those cases in Thurston County residents in the last week. Unfortunately, we've had 20 Thurston County residents die of COVID-19, with 3 of those deaths occurring in the last week. 101 have been hospitalized. Fortunately, none have been hospitalized in the last week. 1,110 people have been released from isolation and quarantine by Thurston County Public Health. To date, there have been 48,522 tests for COVID-19 here in Thurston County, with our current positivity testing rate at 3.7%. which is above our target of 2%. We have a number of outbreaks going right now. We've had 14 outbreaks in congregate care settings since this pandemic began, with 5 currently that our staff are investigating, and 4 of those have occurred in the last week. And with that, I will pass it over to Dr. Abdulmalik to provide some further information and context to this.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning, Doctor.
So as Director Slaughter mentioned, we have been seeing a rise in case counts with elevated case counts both last week and this week, which is concerning. Those following along at home, sometimes people like to break out our numbers. So over the last 2 weeks, we've had 237 cases. When we report cases in Thurston County, we report PCR positive and antigen positive cases. Because antigen testing came later than PCR testing, these antigen positive cases, even though we investigate them, we investigate all test positive cases the same way. These antigen positive cases are counted as probable cases, by the state and by the CDC at this point. That is why when people kind of take out their calculator to check what our transmission rates are, they will get a different transmission rate than the rate that's reported by our state Department of Health, which only calculates based on PCR tests, which are the confirmed gold standard test. The reason why I mention this is to explain a little bit about how I use the antigen positive testing in my decision making. So in terms of our most recent data from from October 8th, our confirmed PCR tests, the preliminary data from all of that is that we're just below 6 cases per 100,000 over the last 14 days, which puts us in that moderate transmission zone where we have been. Because we do have these antigen positive tests, and there is an amount of antigen testing that's occurring throughout the state and throughout the country. It makes me think that our transmission rates are a little bit, the transmission rates in our county are higher than the straight confirmed testing transmission rates. And when I see that, I tend to look for causes, and it makes me want to pause and see what direction our county is going to take with regard to the pandemic. We have been seeing the trend that we saw back in July, which is that once community transmission rates increase, we do get an increase in outbreaks, and specifically in our congregate care settings, just because more COVID in the community, circulating in the community, means that there's an increased likelihood of those who care for our vulnerable populations getting sick and bringing it into those facilities. The key to mitigating the spread of COVID-19 is what it has been since the beginning of the pandemic. So maintaining that physical 6-foot distance between yourself and non-household members, wearing a mask in public, crucially staying home when you're sick, and getting tested early if you have symptoms of COVID-19. Avoiding gatherings, avoiding unnecessary travel, and covering coughs and sneezes. And those kind of form the building blocks of how we can slow the spread of COVID-19 in our county. I've also been getting some questions about Halloween and how to celebrate Halloween safely. The safest celebrations of Halloween are going to be those that you have at home with only your household members physically present. So things like online costume and pumpkin carving contests, movie marathons with just your household, scavenger hunts for candy with household members that take place in the home are the safest options. If people are considering trick-or-treating, you would want to wear a cloth mask. The plastic masks that come with costumes do not contain COVID-19 the way a cloth mask would. Only trick-or-treat with members of your household and maintain that 6 feet of distance with all non-household members, and using a lot of hand washing and use of hand sanitizer. For folks that want to give out treats, the recommendation is for bag treats at a location, that's distant from you. So people have suggested a table on the porch or a table at the end of a driveway, and just minimizing the number of people reaching into a communal bowl of candy. For a place, if people are concerned that a line may form for candy, just having a marker that separates out 6 feet of distance so people have that guidepost. As cases rise, my strong recommendation is that people do avoid social gatherings, do maintain that 6 feet of distance, avoiding parties, and other ways that we may have celebrated Halloween in the past. Those are all going to be crucial for lowering the transmission rate in our county, going into November and going into the winter cold and flu and other holiday season. Thank you.
One other thing I would just like to add before we conclude this report and take your questions is that we have free COVID testing at Rochester Organization of Families today from 11 to 2. So anyone who's experiencing at least one of the COVID-19 symptoms can come to Roof today to get free testing.
Beautiful. That's a good announcement, Shelley. Thank you. Now, let me see what the weather prediction might be for Halloween. That's just too far out. Any questions for either Shelley or Dr. A? Gary, anything?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Of those 20 residents that have died, are any of them other than that demographic of high threat?
Yes, we have had we have had cases that did not meet the high risk demographic.
And so that means they did not have any underlying conditions or of an age that's in that threat group?
They did not have any documented predisposing conditions and were not of a high age.
Okay, what age group would that youngest person been in?
The youngest, so in terms of all of the folks that we have, the youngest was in that 40s range.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Ty.
Doctor, has there been any new, and if the answer is no, you can just say no, but has there been any new guidance, or I should say not guidance, but research or studies or understanding of whether folks can get reinfected, are getting sick with COVID again after they've already had it?
So yes, that has been documented. Most recently, I believe, in a case in Nevada. And when we start to think about whether that might be the case is 3 months after the initial infection, because with CDC research and other research, we know that once you get COVID-19, you have antibody protection or a higher level of antibodies for 90 days afterwards. We are still learning a lot about what the risk factors are for reinfection. And I know that when that's a suspicion, people try to get the genetic signature of the specific viral strain to confirm that it's a new infection rather than a recurrence of an old infection. But there have been cases.
So I guess, even though there have been cases, is there, I guess, the other half of that equation is how are some people showing resistance? You know, is there contrary examples where people have shown some resistance, or is that testable? I'm not sure how scientists would go about figuring that out, but
That's a really good question. I think that because this is a novel virus, as we go forward, I anticipate a lot more data and a lot more knowledge being generated on that topic.
Yeah, I was just reading some articles about how pandemics end, and reading specifically about the 1918 Spanish flu, and it seems like it's very hard to analogize these different situations because of this one factor. I think is going to be really important in terms of how it plays through and ultimately kind of comes to a conclusion. And we just don't know so much about this novel virus. So,
Doctor, if I were to announce that my wife got a flu shot, does that violate HIPAA? Anyway, we both have had our flu shot. My question is, you used the word that we're in moderate, I think it was you, I don't think it was Shelley. We're in moderate transition zone currently. How is that ranked? Is it low, moderate, high, or how is that rated or ranked?
So the state of Washington has 3 levels of transmission, right? Low, moderate, and high. Low is less than 25 cases per 100,000 over 14 days. Moderate is between 25 and 75 cases per 100,000 over 14 days, and then high is more than 75 cases per 100,000 over 14 days.
And where are we now currently? And we're
So-
moderate, which is how many per thousand?
So we're in the moderate range, and our last the last data that the state has for us that they're still in the process of confirming from 10/8 is that we were at approximately 59 cases per 100,000
Okay.
over 14 days. But yeah.
And what triggers the governor into changing or adding more restrictions? Do you know? Is there a trigger for that? I know he has full discretion, but is there a trigger by which he measures it?
At this point, I'm not aware of a specific trigger for more restrictions. I do know that the guidance that our State Department of Health and our governor have put forward use low, medium, and high transmission rates to form the basis of the recommendations and guidance that they're giving us. But I don't know of a specific trigger.
Okay, I'm just concerned, of course, with any further restrictions that have been loosened in the past. So everybody has a keen eye on that. Any other questions for either Shelley or Doctor?
No, sir.
Oh, go ahead, Ty.
It's been my sense just that the whole phased approach has kind of been tossed out the window, and we're just, because of the rising transmission rates over the, from the middle of the summer through the fall, we were sort of, it seemed like the state sort of froze where folks were, and then he's making the changes from there. Is that accurate, or is there still talk of certain counties trying to move into phase 2 and stuff like that? Or is that just out the window?
That's accurate.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. Thank you both very much for joining us. Have a good day today. And we're going to move on to homeless strategies with our very own Keely Marino, our coordinator. Good morning, Keely.
Good morning. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services with a brief update today, starting off as usual with kind of an update on our Prevention, Prevention, and Rental Assistance Program that the Community Action Council is executing through Department of Commerce. To this date, they have 868 appointments made. They've served 402 households, 766 forward months being paid for, and 390 back months rent. Spent at this point is $1,111,000 on rental assistance. However, there is approximately $253,000 left unsigned at this point from landlords in terms of just the forms being signed. And once those go forward, it will be a total of about $1.4 million that have been spent, which takes us to the halfway mark of the grant, which then will enable Commerce to send us the remaining funds. So we're waiting for the amendments to be signed and confirmation from Department of Commerce that we can move forward with the second half of the funding distribution. So that's very exciting. We have started planning for the 2021 point in time count census, having just released the report from 2020. We don't have any clear guidance at this point about an in-person count from Housing and Urban Development, Department of Housing and Urban Development at the federal level, and we're asking after some local guidance from Department of Commerce as our continuum of care. So more on that upcoming. And then finally, ending today with an update on the vehicles parked along Ensign Road. The city of Olympia has decided to move forward with having those vehicles removed by the end of October. They are working closely with Providence and with their code enforcement and parking to ensure that the process goes smoothly and should be occurring in the last week of October. And currently there's no place for those vehicles to go. Nothing has been identified at this point.
That was my question. Thank you. Those being moved on.
Correct.
Okay.
Just due to health and safety concerns, as I mentioned previously, just folks reporting they're not able to make it to their medical appointments or any kind of delay whatsoever for emergency services is very concerning. And so the city of Olympia is moving forward.
And there are numerous eyes and numerous minds on this topic that are behind the scenes working to find places for these folks to go to park where it's safe and clean.
Absolutely.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Keely? Kai?
Two questions. One, on point in time I know we went from Olympia leading it to, I think we contracted with, and we had Faith Attica involved, et cetera. Are we going to the same approach as last year? Or are we, who's in charge for 2021?
Thanks for asking. Ariel Benson, as the homeless specialist, 25% of her job description is facilitating the point in time census. So she is our point person. It's in-house this year. And so she will be heading up the efforts alongside with myself and other members of our office.
Okay, good. Second thing was regarding the RVs. One of the, I guess my question is just going to be, do you have any connection to or insight into or involvement in discussions that may be occurring involving the Port of Olympia, Tumwater? I know they had cleared a camp and they were talking about maybe a mitigation site. I heard more recently than that, I heard that maybe they were looking at a place to help with the RV situation. But I wasn't sure if you were at that table or had heard anything that we should know.
I have not been at that table. I've had peripheral email updates that aren't any different than what you just summarized.
Okie doke, thank you.
Commissioner, I can provide an update on that.
Would you please? That's why I made that comment about so many minds are looking at this outside of this meeting. Go ahead, Romero.
Yeah, I did reach out to the executive director for the Port of Olympia, and she confirmed that perhaps there is a property just south of the airport. The Port of Olympia might be in the position to lease to any jurisdiction or nonprofit, maybe to address the RV parking in the county. Based on my understanding of the property, there's not something that can be utilized right away, but certainly it's going to be an asset, could be an asset to look for a long-term solution for RV parking in the county. It's just about 5 acres. There's some, there has to be some property improvements first. And this Thursday, we have the Regional Housing Council. The executive director of the Port of Olympia is going to be attending that meeting. And this issue is going to be brought up for discussion and consideration by the RHC to see if there is a potential to have a project on this property. There's a lot of steps that needs to be taken, I believe, as to who is going to be taking the responsibility of the lease, how much the lease is going to be, all that, but nothing short term. And that's probably the update that I have on your question, Commissioner Menser.
So it's not forgotten. People are still, we're receiving emails as well that there's a lot of entities and groups and organizations that are really working hard and fast on this issue. Mr. Edwards, anything?
No, everything was answered for me. Thank you.
Oh, good. Wow, Keely, thank you very kindly. All right, bye-bye. We're now going to review the Board of County Commissioners agenda for this afternoon, October 13th. We'll convene the meeting at 2 p.m. and the Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Menser, the Vice Chair. Then we'll do the approval of the agenda, allegedly, and the same with the board meeting minutes from last week. And then an opportunity for the public to address the board.
I don't have any intel behind anybody could be coming and provide testimony, but you may be receiving public testimony related to the budget. As you continue to receive, I'll have briefings related to the 2021 budget from the many different offices and departments.
I've been receiving, I'm sorry?
That's my best guess.
Okay, and I've been receiving emails and having phone conversations with folks regarding mineral lands. I don't know if they're going to comment today or not, just to give you a heads up. That takes us to agenda item number 2, the county manager's update.
I don't have any pending public testimony that I need to address, so I don't have any specific updates related to citizen issues.
Great. 3A and B are the consent items. A is an appointment to Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging.
Yeah, Commissioners, you reviewed this application last week, and the board agreed to go ahead and take a formal action in appointing Ms. Eileen McKenzie Sullivan to the Lewis Mason Thurston Area Agency on Aging Advisory Council, and the term will be from October 1st, 2020 to December 1st, 2021.
Okay. No questions or comments? Nope.
I do think I have a comment. She's very well qualified for that position.
Well, absolutely. She's ideal. 3B is the financial services, the voucher list, and I trust we've gone through those. And agenda item number 4 is Superior Court 4A, and that is drug court treatment services contract.
Yeah, you reviewed this item on a couple of occasions, Commissioner. This is for your consideration to first approve a waiver competitive bidding to approve a DUI drug court treatment services with Pierce County Alliance for the amount of $178,271, and the contract will go from July 1st, 2020 through June 30, 2021. The internal auditor, as well as the attorneys, have reviewed this particular contract, and they're supporting this action, which allows the Board of County Commissioners to waive the bidding for professional services contracts. And this is the case. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer. But again, you have reviewed this item in the past, and this is funded by the treatment sales tax, TST.
Any questions, Commissioners? Nope.
No, sir.
All right. Agenda item number 5, community planning and economic development contract with Department of Ecology.
Yes, Commissioners, you also reviewed this item. In 2018, Thurston County was awarded a National Estuary Program, also known as NEP, a Stormwater Strategic Initiative grant for the amount of $305,000 through the Department of Ecology. In June of 2020, the county was informed that he had been selected for an additional funding award and extension of the grant timeframe. The amendment adds an additional $247,000 to the previous $305,000 that we received. So this amendment is to have a total grant award of $552,500 and extends the period to implement the objectives of this grant from March 2021 through December 2022. This particular grant is specifically related to dealing with streams and provide citizens with information to motivate voluntary restoration or riparian areas in private land, and also could be identified for some funds for implementation of riparian restoration as pilot projects. This has been a program in place for the last couple of years again, and this grant is to allow us to continue this educational program that at the end will enhance the fish habitat in the county. Have any questions, please let me know.
Any questions? Nope. All right. 5B, setting a public hearing to accept public comment for ADUs.
Yeah, the ADU, also known as the Rural Accessory Dwelling Units, is in Development Code Amendment 821. The Board of County Commissioners added this item in 2018 and reaffirmed to include on the 2020-2021 official docket Development Code docket amendments in April of this year. You have placed a priority number 3 out of the 15 Development Code items, and here we are. The Planning Commission has reviewed. They have held 4 different work sessions, and on May 20th, from May 20th to August 20th of this year. Also, the Planning Commission held a public hearing on August 5th, 2020, and a SEPA determination of not significant was issued on September 8th, 2020. The staff also have a work session with the Board of County Commissioners on September 23, 2020, where the board provided direction to submit an AIS to set a public hearing before the board can take formal action in implementing the suggested changes by the Planning Commission. And again, this is just for you to consider setting a public hearing for Tuesday, November 10, 2020 at 3 in the afternoon in this room. And depending on the public testimony you might receive, maybe a follow-up conversations as to where the board wants to go in making the changes to the code, allowing the rural ADUs in the county.
Any questions, Commissioner?
Expanding the use, if I may.
Nope. Okay. 5C, setting a public hearing for an amendment to Sienna 2 development agreement.
So this is going to take a little time. So back in September of 2020, the Board of County Commissioners passed an AIS setting a public hearing for today related to a proposed amendment to the existing development agreement for Sienna 2. Unfortunately, we didn't provide the proper notice in the newspaper, so this public hearing cannot be held today. So the public hearing scheduled for today has been canceled. For your considerations to set a public hearing for November 10, 2020 at 3 in the afternoon to take public testimony, again, on amendments to the existing development agreement for Sienna 2. As a matter of background, you did take an action in which you allow the developer to continue do their improvements, and due to the COVID-19 emergency, this developer agreement is scheduled to be lapsed by January 1st, 2021. This particular proposal, after the public testimony, will be to extend this agreement with the developer or Sienna 2 to August 1st, 2021. That will give enough time for the developer to somewhat recover from this emergency and continue with the initial plans they had related to Sienna 2. Any questions? I believe Brett Burris is here if you have any particular questions related to this item.
Gary, any questions?
I guess I'd just ask, is this going to cause any undue burden or anything? This is just a technicality that was missed?
No, it was just a misstep in the process. That is why the actual agreement doesn't lapse until January 1st, 2021.
Okay, thank you very much.
We still have time to go through the public hearing and for you to exercise your decision.
Thank you.
Ty, anything? Go ahead if you do.
No.
Well, thank you, Brett, for being here. Agenda item number 6, emergency services, intergovernmental EMS contract.
Yeah, you also reviewed this item last week, Commissioners, and there's a revised contract related to the advanced life support, also known as ALS, which include renewal of the contracts with Lacey Fire District 3, Olympia Fire Department, and Tumwater Fire Departments, which this current contract expires on December 1st, 2020. There's the negotiations has been ongoing, and the EMS Council already concurred on the draft recommendations of this new proposal and has sent this for your consideration to the Board of County Commissioners. Some of the highlights of the new ALS contract includes a 2-year agreement. It was negotiated the beginning. They will begin January 1st, 2021. Provides funding for 70 paramedics in Thurston County, along with medical services officers, MSO, for each agency. Assist with paramedics shortage they're nationwide. This includes cost reimbursement for internal county EMT, attendant paramedic school, reduction in paramedic overtime with a cap from 8% to 6% that was reduced. And overall, the contract has been increased from $8,749,448 to $9,249,000, just about a 5.7% increase to cover all the increased costs related to labor on the medical services in the county. And again, the EMS Council has reviewed the terms of this proposed contract, and they submitted for your final consideration. Kurt Harding is here if you have any additional questions related to this contract. And by the way,
Welcome,
this is
Kurt.
funded by Medic One.
Good. Welcome, Kurt. Do you have anything to add to that, Romero's presentation?
No, Romero did a great job. Kurt Harden, Director of Emergency Services. Romero did a great job with the presentation. And I think that all parties are in agreement, including the 3 fire agencies.
Okay. Ty, any questions or comments? No. Gary?
No, sir.
All right. Kurt, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Next is agenda item number 7, Public Works. The partial road closure of 188th Southwest resolution.
Yeah, Commissioners, you held a public hearing last week related to the partial closure of 188th Avenue Southwest that is located in the Rochester area leading to the Chehalis Drive Casino. My notes on the public testimony, you have 2 written comments, I believe. One was in opposition, one was in support. And on the public testimony you received 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, all were in support of the closure. They provided some concerns related to maybe farming equipment getting into Highway 12 after this is closed. But also you received some testimony related that particular activity already occurs on Highway 12. And again, I have this item for your consideration, taking action. But again, based on the public testimony, you may consider delaying this item depending on what it feels like. Matt Anselman is here. I believe there was a couple follow-up questions that he needed to answer. So, Matt?
All right.
Morning, commissioners and county managers. If I could, I'd like to, I talked with the clerk of the board before and she said that I could share my screen.
Yep.
Okay. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is quickly show you, and I apologize for not having these exhibits at the public hearing. I'm still learning the rules of our virtual world that we live in. I'd like this first exhibit is showing up here in the top left-hand corner. That is where the roundabout is actually being constructed. It has been constructed now and is in place. What this closure would be doing is redirecting all the traffic that would be turning left from US 12 onto Moon Road. We're sending them up to the roundabout that's been installed here to safely access the casino. So the limits of the closure would be Moon Road here on the east end. And if this is the casino employee parking lot here, on the west end, there would be a gate that's physically installed there. So here you can see there'll be a hammerhead constructed at Moon Road to accommodate any traffic that inadvertently goes down Moon Road so that they can safely turn around. And then the gate would be installed here at the employee parking lot. I can say after the public hearing, I reached out to the Chehalis tribe as well as Eric Johnson, one of the local farmers, on trying to find a way to accommodate farming equipment through the closure. While there is no way that the county can safely provide a access through the public right-of-way, The farming community is talking with the Shalis tribe on some ways that they may be able to bypass the closure using their land. There's been no formal agreement. The county would not be involved in that agreement. That would be between the farming community and the Shalis tribe. But it was a productive meeting yesterday, and hopefully something does get worked out.
That's a nice viable option. I like that. Are you done, Matt?
Unless you want to keep listening to me.
Well, no, we may have questions. We may need the map back. I don't know. Gary, you got a question?
I'm sorry.
Yes, I do.
Do you want me to put the map back up?
No, I
You
don't
need
know
the
if I
map?
need the map.
Okay.
All right.
I need to map. Please put it back up.
Okay, who's
You're
on?
on, Gary. You are, Gary.
Okay, this is for Matt. If we were to vote and approve this resolution to make that closure today, does that prevent any future Board of County Commissioners that may come up with a viable solution to this particular problem from making amendments to that resolution prior to the 10-year limit you've got on it? So, I mean, 6 months from now, there's some new thing developed that, well, you know, we can elevate across it or something, anti-gravity machine or whatever. I don't know what it is. Can we make adjustments? That's what I'm curious about.
And County Manager, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it's my understanding that we would be able to make adjustments, but those would need to be made by formal resolution.
Okay, but it is doable.
Yeah, the board legislative action can be adjusted, redo, cancel in any future meetings as you see.
Okay, thank you very much.
But would that necessitate mutual agreement with the tribes, or do we have unilateral decision making?
If you want to change this particular action down the road, most likely you will need to have a public hearing.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Ty.
See the map back up?
Oh. What, this one or that one?
Either one, that's fine. So if you turn left on Moon Road and you come to 188, does Moon Road extend south of there, or is that the end of Moon Road?
No, Moon Road actually keeps on going south towards the Shalis River.
And this thing that you're calling a hammerhead, what does that mean? What is that?
Okay, so a hammerhead simply means it's a device used to turn vehicles around. So if you can see my cursor, we'd have a stop bar and a stop sign right there. And so a vehicle would turn into here and then back up into here and go back up Moon Road. You'll often see these at the end of developments, the fire department, and they're used to turn emergency vehicles around.
Physically, what is it?
Oh, it's
shading on your map, but
it's just a paved area for vehicles to turn around.
oh, okay. So you shape the pavement in that particular shape.
Exactly. So basically, vehicles would pull into here and then back into here and then go back up Moon Road.
And if they needed to go south on Moon Road, they could?
They could continue to go down Moon Road.
So it's a 2-point turnaround then, really, or turn rather than a cul-de-sac.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
And I thought when you did the public hearing, you were talking about there being a gate. This is what I understood. Maybe I got it backwards. I thought there was a gate at Moon and 88, and then on the backside where the employee parking lot was, there was like a concrete barrier, and then certain number of feet down another concrete barrier that you said people could drive around.
Right, and the reason we flip flop those is because with communications with the tribe and the farmers, it would need to be set up where the gate would need to be on the west end of the closure, and the staggered concrete barriers right here would need to be on the east side to accommodate the bypass for the farm equipment.
Okay, so you've already made an adjustment to the plan based on the potential to try to accommodate this through the
Exactly.
tribal. Okay, well, that's significant change from the public hearing, so I'm glad that we clarified that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And
Hey,
Matt,
Hutch-
thank you very much.
Hutch,
Yeah,
can
go
I
ahead,
ask
Gary.
one more thing?
Yeah.
Matt, when you said that the continuation of Moon Road goes down to the river, is that a paved portion or dirt road?
It's paved, but I wouldn't say it's more like a driveway than an actual road. I think there's only don't quote me, but I think there's only 2 residences down there.
It's a local access after that intersection. Yeah.
Are we required to maintain that portion of the roadway?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
All right, Matt, thank you for the photos and the presentation.
Thank you.
So what I will ask the board is whether you'd like to keep this item for this afternoon's agenda.
I would.
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. And item 7B is related to item 7A. And 7B is to authorize the Public Works Director to sign an agreement with DOT to receive $435,000 of state funding to build improvements Matt just described related to this closure.
Okay. I don't have any questions on that. Do you, Ty or Gary?
No, sir.
No. Okay, good. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you,
Matt.
Romero. That takes us to agenda item number 8, where we do our wrap up of our previous week and the schedule coming up. And then we're going to go this afternoon. We go into the Board of Health meeting. So I'm going to turn over to the chair of the Board of Health, Commissioner Menser, to go through today's agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So yes, we have a Board of Health meeting beginning at 3:30. And 3:30 presumably will start on time following the Board of County Commissioners meeting wrap. Calling the meeting to order at 3:30. 3:35. Let's see. Calling the meeting order will include approval of agenda and consideration of meeting minutes from September 16th and work session notes from September 1st and September 16th. Any questions or comments on those pieces?
Chair Menzer, we need to strike those items today and defer them to next month's Board of Health meeting, please.
Okay, well, not just the minutes and the work session notes?
Yes, sir.
Very good, thank you. Okay, that's easy enough. And then the next item would be presentation. I'm going to let Shelley introduce what's going on here.
Yeah, so
Shelley.
very happy to have this item presented by Jennifer Dixon from our Public Health Emergency Preparedness and Response Program, honoring the amazing work of our Medical Reserve Corps and recognizing them for their support to our department on COVID-19 response. We'll have 3 members of the Medical Reserve Corps present at the meeting this afternoon to share their experiences. And Jennifer will share more about the work of the Medical Reserve Corps.
Questions or comments for Shelley on the presentation?
No, sir.
Yes, I have just one question. When you say present, do you mean remotely or physically?
Yes, sir. Remotely, they will be
Okay.
on the.
Thank you.
Very good. Number 3 on the agenda is opportunity for the public to address the Board of Health. And we'll see what folks may have to say about schools or any other hot topic. Agenda item 4 relates to an emergency ordinance continuing selected sessions sections of Emergency Ordinance H4 2020, suspending, waiving, and amending certain provisions of the sanitary code for Thurston County due to COVID-19 outbreak. Art Story's here from our Environmental Health Division Director. And Shelley, why don't you tee this up for us?
Art, do you want to go ahead and review that item for the board?
Yes. So good morning. I'm Art Story, the Environmental Health Division Director for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. And this is an item that we previewed last week. And what it does is it basically reenacts certain provisions of an emergency ordinance that you adopted in March, that provides relief to permit holders and folks who might have to undergo a hearing for some reason or another. And it basically extends permits and automatically renews certain permits and activities, and is again intended to provide relief to permit holders who might not be able to complete their projects within the original timeframes because of the COVID stuff. And that's at the high level. The other thing that we added to this, which is different than the one that you adopted in March, is that we do provide some relief for folks who we certify, who are septic system professionals, installers, pumpers, and monitoring specialists. So that way they have additional time to complete their continuing education requirements. Those folks have to document that they've taken classes and whatnot in order to maintain their licensing or certification. And we're extending that for another year because frankly, there aren't many classes and things available due to the COVID outbreak. And so we're providing that as well as the other things that are in there. I'd be happy to go through it in more detail. The ordinance, again, it's an emergency ordinance, so it doesn't have the normal public noticing things that you might have if it was, say, a regular amendment to the sanitary code. So you have the ability to review this and even approve it today if you would like. Again, it's I've provided the ordinance is attached as well as a one-page cheat sheet or highlight sheet that we prepared to help folks who might be interested in this item.
Questions for Art?
I do. Art, I don't know if you know this or not. I'm sorry, I don't know if you know this or not, but those folks that need to continue with their education requirements, how many hours is the requirement, the CEU requirement, and how many people are we talking about that are in that profession in Thurston County?
We have dozens of people who are certified to become, certified as pumpers, monitoring specialists, and other things. And so what they have to do is they have to attend at least one class every 2 years to continue their certification. And the classes are ones that we approve. They're typically offered by the Washington On-Site Sewage Association, or they might be offered by the State Department of Health and others. And so they need to turn that in, but a lot of those classes aren't available at this time. But we have, and I don't have the exact number, but we have dozens and dozens of people who are licensed as pumpers, monitoring specialists, and installers. And so this does provide quite a bit of relief to them. There's quite a number of people who are affected.
Now, is that like an 8-hour class or a week long?
It depends on the class. We have some flexibility there, but they'll be often a one-day class or an afternoon class.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Ty?
Sure. Yeah.
Ty?
Yep.
Oh, okay. I just want to thank Art and Shelley for getting on the stick and extending this out, because there was a lot of people that were concerned they were going to run into complications with this. So thank you very much on behalf of the public.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, very good. With those questions answered, I guess we'll see you this afternoon, Art. Thank you so much.
Yep, and I'll pop back in when you get to the vaping thing in a little bit.
Okay, great. Next item is number 5, and it's an update on the homelessness public health crisis. Keely Marino, Tom Webster will be teed up, and it looks like we have Keely online.
Yes, sir. I'll introduce this item, and then if Keely has anything that she would like to add, that would be wonderful. So just as a reminder, the Board of Health passed an emergency resolution H2 2018, in June of 2018, declaring homelessness a public health crisis in Thurston County. Since that time, we've been faced with the challenges of rising homelessness in Thurston County, as well as Thurston County having some great successes. So Keely is going to provide an update on items in that resolution that our department was tasked with. And I'll just leave it for Keely to add anything further that she would like to share.
I think you basically covered it without me going into the presentation entirely. So I'm very happy to come before you this afternoon and highlight some of the work that we've been doing over the last year. I believe it's been a year and almost a half since I presented on updates of this declaration. So very, very excited to do so.
Thank you.
Any questions about what this is about, gentlemen?
No.
No, sir.
Okay. Yeah, Thurston County has a emergency resolution declaring homelessness public health emergency, and so this is kind of a check-in as to how we're doing on the various items and strategies that we were hoping the board took action on in June of 2018. Thank you, Keely. See you this afternoon.
Yes.
So those are a couple of significant topics. So at that point, it's a report from the Board of Health members regarding health-related activities, a health officer's report from Dr. Abdul Malik, and a director's report from Shelley Slaughter. Do we anything there you want to preview for us or that we need to be aware of, Shelley?
No, sir. We'll review COVID-19 response information in a little bit more detail today and just provide general updates on department activities.
Questions on that, commissioners?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, great. And then we will adjourn the Board of Health meeting, but we have a Board of Health public hearing. And that's scheduled for 5 o'clock. And it relates to proposed ordinance H08-2020, which would adopt a new Article 8 of the Sanitary Code and relate to vaping in indoor public places. And we've had multiple sessions, discussing this and advising changes. I think we have a final draft that's been noticed up and released, and now we're taking in any public comment on this. And it's got Kateri Winsett identified on the agenda. I see Chris Hawkins is online. I know he's involved, and Art is here as well. So Shelley, why don't you preview this for us?
Yes, sir. We're happy to have a public hearing today on a local ordinance to restrict vaping in public places. Chris Hawkins can provide some further information to queue us up for today. The presenters will be myself introducing this item and sharing the written public comment that we've received thus far, followed by Kateri Winsett, who will give an overview of this matter, and then Sammy Berg from Environmental Health will close out the presentation. But I will pass it to Chris Hawkins now to provide any further information.
Good morning, Commissioners. Chris Hawkins here, Education and Prevention Manager with the Health Department. I think Shelley's covered it well, that this is a policy that's been under consideration for a number of months now, and we have done extensive outreach, not only to other local jurisdictions, but to the business community. And just in the last day, there was a few media contacts that our coordinator, Kateri Winsett, has dealt with and responded to. I think a story has appeared in the Olympian about the hearing, as well as on Como News and also KNKX, one of the National Public Radio affiliate stations on the radio. And so the word is getting out about this. To date, we've only received one written comment about the ordinance. That was positive in support comment as of the end of the day yesterday, which was the deadline for receiving written comments before the hearing. And we also had a SEPA, State Environmental Policy Act review process going on concurrent with the open time for public comment about the ordinance, and didn't receive any comments through the SEPA process that I know of. That also closed last week on public comment, and yesterday as far as appeals. So that determination of non-significance is where that stands right now. And we look forward to the opportunity to have the public comment further this evening.
Questions for Chris?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Commissioner Edwards, go ahead.
Chris, where are we at in other jurisdictions moving forward with this type of a resolution ordinance?
Yes, that's a good question. There are a number of other counties that have already put in place vaping in public places style of ordinance. I believe it's up to 12 counties besides Thurston at this point that have done this, including some of the larger counties nearby us here in Western Washington, but also a number across the state, which actually covers most of the population of the state now in terms of having this protection against secondhand smoke and vape emissions exposures. And so we're in good stead with a good number of other Washington counties in having done this, and we think we've made some improvements based on their experiences in terms of how we've put together this ordinance that would put a new article in our sanitary code.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly what I was thinking maybe you guys have done. So thanks for thinking ahead on that.
Thank you.
My only comment is you say it was on KNKX and Como, and I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning to Cairo reporting the public hearing as well. So this is excellent coverage. Very happy with that. Thank you, Chris and Kateri.
Very welcome. Yep, I will pass that along to Kateri.
Thank you.
My question was basically the same as Commissioner Edwards. I was just curious with the media coverage you mentioned. It just made me wonder how much of a limb we've gone out on with this. But it sounds like this is being considered across the state. So that answers my question. Anything else for Chris on this?
No, sir.
Sounds like we're good.
Sir.
Thank you so much, Chris.
Thank you. Have a great day.
And then, is this a situation where, I know the board always has discretion, but would the board be considering adoption of this at the conclusion of public hearing if it felt so inclined, or is that something we would take up at a different time? I'm looking at Shelley, maybe.
That's entirely at your discretion, sir.
Okay.
Or at the board's discretion.
Okay, very good.
So related to that, Shelley, want to have on the agenda to have the two options, the two motions. One is to close the public hearing, and give the option the commissioners to approve by an actual action. That will be helpful. And also on the script, the staff submitted, to have the two options for the commission to consider, the commissioners to consider.
Thank you so much for that suggestion, Ramiro. We'll add that.
And if I could make sure, I'm not usually, we don't have, this may be the first Board of Health public hearing we've had that I can recall. So, and usually in the boardroom, you'd have the script on the dais for me, but since we're doing a virtual form, if make sure that I get the copy of the public hearing script would be great, since I haven't.
Yeah, we'll get that to you, Commissioner, the script.
Thank you so much.
I have one final question, and that is, Commissioner Edwards, will you be here for the Board of Health meeting?
Yes, I believe I will.
Okay, thank you.
Pass it back to you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you. This is the time we would go into next Tuesday's Board of County Commissioners agenda and the Transportation Benefit District. But due to a scheduling conflict, I'm going to turn this over to President Gary Edwards, Commissioner Edwards, for the Transportation Benefit District agenda for Tuesday, October 20.
I guess I got that assignment, you know, because I'm pretty enthused about roadways and paving and such. Anyway, we'll call that meeting to order at 3:30, and we'll approve the October 20th, 2020 agenda and approve the meeting minutes from May 21st, 2019, because that was the last time we had a meeting on the Transportation Benefit District. Then there will be an opportunity for the public to address the board. And then we have department items that will come up. And I think I'm going to turn this part of it over to the county manager.
I believe Scott Lindblom is represented.
Is he here? Okay.
Yeah. He is going to walk you through the.
Okay, good enough. Let's hear from Scott.
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Lindblom, County Engineer with Public Works. And yes, I'd be happy to walk you through the agenda for next week's Transportation Benefit District meeting. So of the 4 department items, some of them will be the annual housekeeping items. The first one is the ratification of the election of the TBD officers for 2020. And you may recall on January 7th of this year, the commissioners appointed Commissioner Edwards as the president of the TBD, Commissioner Menzer as the vice president, and Commissioner Hutchings as the member. So that, again, that first item is the ratification of those officers. The second item will be the annual report for the Transportation Benefit District. Matt Unzelman, our county traffic engineer, will present that. Thirdly, the transportation year in review. Again, this was the agenda for originally March of this year, which was canceled when COVID issues arose. So at that time, we were going to be walking through the 2019 annual report or annual year in review. So again, that is on the agenda for next week. And Lucy Mills, our road operations manager, will walk through that. The last item on the TBD agenda for next week is the presentation of the county road safety plan. This should be a very informative presentation brought to you by our traffic engineer, Matt Unzelman. He'll walk you through the county's county road safety plan and walk you through what it means, where it came from, and the benefit that will provide to the citizens of Thurston County. And then finally, after those items are done, the board will consider adjournment or any other items that you'd like to talk about.
Okay, I guess that is going to conclude our meeting, and I would say for the public, we're not going to take any action that's going to cost them anything. And anything you'd like to add to this, County Manager?
Yeah, just a quick question for Scott. On the agenda, the meeting starts at 3:30, and based on the items that you have a proposed adjournment by 4 o'clock. Is that realistic to have a 30-minute meeting to cover all those items?
I believe so. I think the longest item will be the county road safety plan, which might take 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. That's my report, sir.
Okay. Thank you for that. And now we're going to move on to review the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, October 20th, next week. And we'll call the meeting to order at 2 o'clock. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Commissioner Edwards. Approval of the minutes from the Tuesday, and that'll be today. It's not October 20th. That needs to be corrected. Oh, that's the agenda. There we go. Minutes from today. Got it. Got ahead of myself and behind myself at the same time. Then an opportunity for the public to address the board and the county manager's update. Then we move to agenda item number 3, consent items A, B, and C. The first is Public Works executing a license and indemnity agreement.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioners. This is a similar item you have entertained in the past. This is a proposed license and an agreement with a private property owner who would like to bore under the county road to put water and sewer lines in the Summit Lake area. The purpose of this is similar to a franchise agreement in a way. So this is supposed to be with a utility company. This is with a private property owner, which allows those property owners to go and cross county roadways when they're in need to cross utilities. In this particular case is with Mr. Lee Ingram, which is they live on just about milepost 2.6 of the Summit Lake Shore Road. And they would like to cross the road because they have property on both sides of the road, and they like to extend water and sewer to the property across the road. And Todd Mason, is here to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions, commissioners?
I guess I'd have one question to Todd.
Yeah.
We did this, I don't know, maybe 3 months ago, we had a similar action that we took up at Summit Lake. Was it in the same area, do you know, Todd?
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. Todd Mason, Public Works Development Review. Commissioner Edwards, it was on the same road, but that other one was probably about a mile away. And you brought up last time on that one for us to look at opportunities to have, one crossing for multiple properties. So on this one, this is a vacant lot. The closest other vacant lot is about 700 feet north, which due to the bedrock and stuff doesn't seem practical or feasible to do a boring across here. Because effectively, if that lot had a similar situation, they'd have to go 600 feet down our public right-of-way, cross under that boring, and then go 600 feet to 700 feet the other direction. So anyway, a great point that I've directed staff to look for as we go forward. If there's a couple vacant lots that are proposing crossing our county right-of-way, certainly better just have one crossing than multiple 50 feet away.
Okay, well, thank you very much for reviewing that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Menser.
Well, part of my question was answered. I was just wondering if this was a new, I know we addressed this a couple months ago, and I didn't know if this was a follow-up to that or if this was a new situation where somebody else needs to go across. And then my follow-up to that was, how did is the other one done? Did it go smoothly? Was there any problems? Or is that still pending?
The one that we looked at, I think that was in August. I don't know if the crossing has been completed yet. But this is fairly common for us. And as county manager mentioned, these utility crossings are done almost on a daily basis with different utility companies that we have franchise agreements with. But when it's a private citizen needing to put a water line or sewer line across that's private, that's where these indemnity agreements come forth. But they're still processed and inspected with the same regulations and requirements that the utility companies are.
That it?
So, Commissioners,
Okay.
I stand corrected. I mentioned that it was going to be boring under the roadway, and Todd clarified that because it's a bedrock, that will not be possible. So I assume it's going to be a small open cut on the roadway, correct?
And once they go out and pothole, we'll know for sure on that. Our preference is certainly for boring, but historically in that Summit Lake area, the bedrock's pretty shallow where an open cut is required.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and I have no other questions. Nope, thank you.
All right, Commissioners, County Manager, thank you.
Thank you, Todd.
This is an old agenda.
Now that takes us to 3B, and that's Public Health and Social Services Resolution establishing positions.
This item will not be on your agenda, Commissioners. We have an older version of this agenda, so.
Okay, so that one's strike it?
Yes, will not be part of your agenda next week.
Okay, so that takes us to 3 then. C will be B, unless it changes between now and then. The financial voucher list, and we'll cover that when we get it. Department items. Agenda item number 4 is amendment to varsity custodial contract.
Yeah, as a matter of background, on December 16th, we negotiated a contract with Varsity Facility Services to provide custodial services here in county buildings. And in 2009, the contract was extended for another 2 years, which is allowed within the terms of the contract themselves. So the current contract ends on December 31st, 2021. This particular item is for you to consider an amendment to that contract to provide janitorial services to the administrative side of the old jail here in the campus. And the reason for this ask is due to the COVID-19. District court probation officers will have to be relocated to that area to provide access to their clients and provide the required social distancing associated with their business. So, and again, this contract is to amend to provide cleaning services for 5 days a week for this area of the old jail. The cost per month is $815 for a total cost of $9,780 a year, and they will start on October 20th, 2020, if the board agrees to approve this amendment. Robin is here if you have any questions. Robin Campbell.
Any questions of Robin?
Yes. Will at least a portion, and preferably all of it, but I don't know that that's going to happen, be able to be paid for by the CARES Act money?
The amount that we pay in October and November will be able to be paid with CRF money, but after that, when we no longer have access to that money, we'll have to pay with general fund.
And that probably hinges on whether or not Congress maybe does an extension or something, I suppose.
Right.
So even if Congress does do an extension, we are trying very hard because they've waited so long to have ways to spend the money before our time runs out. So we may not have any, even if Congress acts at this late date.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, anything?
No.
Romero, did you say the total was $97.80 for the year?
Yeah, $9,780 a month.
Okay, thank you. And then got my other question answered. Thank you, Robin. Agenda item number 5 is the CPED, the History Book Grant to Olympia Historical Society.
So I'm going to use this one. Let me take you back. The county funded the publishing of the Water, Woods, and Prairies book back in 2019. And as you may recall, the board wanted to see how the book can be distributed without crossing the line of gifting of public funds. The result of that conversation was that you wanted to award a grant by issuing those books to whomever wanted to submit as a proposal of those grants. So that has occurred, and the applications were reviewed on January 14, 2020 during a board briefing, and the award of those books will be to the Olympia Historical Society and the Bigelow House Museum, and this is the last step in the process, I believe, and Jeremy can give you additional details related to this item. Jeremy Davis.
Good morning, board. Jeremy Davis, Chair Hutchings. I'm Jeremy Davis with Community Planning and Economic Development. So thank you for having me here this morning. We're actually very excited to finally get this book out the door. There have been quite a number of delays, the latest to being COVID-19. Shortly after the board made their decision in February, we began working with the Olympia Historical Society on the grant agreement itself. And the last time we actually met in person was actually the first week of March, and then COVID-19 happened, and we held off until this past August. So in August, we started discussions again with the Olympia Historical Society, and in September, their board met and agreed to move forward with the grant, even with the emergency we have going on right now. We've been working with the county PIO's office on the rollout of this possible grant, and we're actually looking forward to having a few guests at the board meeting for this approval and rollout. We're looking at having Shanna Stevenson and Gary Alexander from the Olympia Historical Society, who will be there to say a few words to the board on it. And we're also going to have Sandy Kroll, who was one of the editors and authors, and also a member of the Thurston County Historic Commission, at the meeting to say a few words about her work on the grant, and possibly Rob Kirkwood, who is the current chair of the Thurston County Historic Commission. So yeah, we're very excited. There are a total of 225 hardbound books and 240 softbound books. We do have signed copies for each of the board members that will be getting to you before the meeting, and these are for your office, of course. And after we get done inking the agreement with the Olympia Historical Society, they'll all be available for purchase by the public. And so the whole grant agreement itself is basically the county granting the books to Olympia Historical Society so they can sell and distribute them as a fundraising activity to further historical education or historic preservation in Thurston County itself. And OHS has been doing a really good job of actually developing a list and also a post-grant award agreement that they may have with other nonprofit organizations in Thurston County for them to kind of sub-grant the books to those other organizations with no additional expense, so they also can sell and distribute the books to raise funds for historic preservation in Thurston County. So if you remember, there was a short discussion at the board briefing in the Wayback Machine in January, where we actually talked about that with the board, and they developed this pathway forward. So we're really excited to get this out the door. For the department item itself, we are expecting to have a short PowerPoint presentation by Sandy Kroll and Shanna when they say their words to the board. And thanks again, we're excited. We have it out by Christmas. So,
any questions of Jeremy?
Well, no, it sounds like Jeremy's got a heck of a handle on this to me. Thank you, Jeremy.
Go ahead, Ty.
Oh, he mentioned Christmas, and I remember meeting with I met with members of the Historical Commission about a year ago, and they were really pushing us to get it out by last Christmas. And we're disappointed that we couldn't do that, but we had some logistical challenges that had to be worked out. So, yeah, and then COVID. So hopefully we can really get this thing moving forward. Happy to see it. I've read it, so I will. If you provide a signed copy, I'll swap it out, because I was lent a softbound copy that I read cover to cover, and I'm happy to swap that out so it could be recirculated for sale or whatnot.
Jeremy, this presentation from Sandy Cole and Gary Alexander, that's all next week at the board meeting or later?
It's all next week, sir. Yeah.
Very good. Look forward to that. Good. Thank you, sir.
So, and I'll be experimenting with my screen share at that point in time. So.
You have time to get it down. All right, thank you, Jeremy. Number 5B is extension of the economic security and relief during COVID.
Commissioner, could I go back? My apologies to item number 4 on the department items, the commissioners.
Yeah.
Not included in the version of your agenda. You will see a new item next week, which is for your consideration is to approve the extension of the emergency declaration that you have. The current emergency declaration related to the COVID-19 expires on October 31st, 2020. In the proposal is for you to consider extending that until February 28th, 2021. As you know, the COVID-19 emergency and response will not end at the end of this month, and likely will not end by February 28, 2021, but at least it will give us an additional months to continue work under the emergency conditions. So this item is going to be for your consideration next week, and my apologies that it's not included on your agenda today.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, any questions on that, gentlemen?
No, sir.
All right, 5B, extending the ordinance. There we go. So Brett or Romero, do you want to frame it? Go ahead, Brett.
Yeah, similar to what Art Story just highlighted to you, the item on the extension, some of the permits, they're going to be lapsing related to the COVID-19. And this particular proposal is for you to consider extending some of the grace period of those lapsing permits until December 31st, 2020. And this is really, it has given the individual property owners who are having a permit in place, and also some developers, to have the flexibility to have the same permits without having to start the process all over again. Again, this is for you to set a public hearing for November 17, 2023 in the afternoon in this room for a renewal of this ordinance extending the permit deadlines through December 31st, 2020. And Brent Burns is here to answer any questions.
Brett, do you have anything to add?
No, sir. County manager explained it in great detail.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
No, sir.
Go ahead, Ty.
Why does this need a public hearing and the septic and environmental health action not need a public hearing if we're doing the same thing, which is extending permits?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that very well.
I was just wondering why this one is going to a public hearing, but the one we're doing with the Board of Health, which relates to, as I understood it, septic permits, isn't going to a public hearing.
That's an excellent question. I have coordinated with Travis Burns, our PAO, on this one, and it was stated that a public hearing is required to extend the amended order.
Do you know that answer, Romero?
Yeah, it's different portions of the code, and perhaps the sanitary code doesn't require those public hearing when the Board of Health exercises those amendments.
Okay. As long as you know what we're doing there, I'm good.
And I have no questions. Brett, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
5C, setting a public hearing for the renewing the interim emergency housing ordinance.
Thank you, commissioners. The purpose of this public hearing is for you to consider renewal of the interim regulations for emergency housing for homeless encampment. This was established by the board on June 25th, 2019, under Ordinance 15792. That lapsed just a year later. And June 9th, 2020, the board extended this ordinance, emergency ordinance via ordinance number 15902, which in this case is for another 6 months and currently is set to expire December 9, 2020. The board had a brief conversation related to this item and provided direction. They would like to bring this item for a further extension for another 6 months. And before you take an action related to this extension of this interim regulation, you need to hold a public hearing. So this item is for you to set a public hearing for December 1st, 2023 in the afternoon in this room. And Leah Davis is here to answer any questions you have any.
Hi, Leah. What's your title, Leah?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Leah Davis with Community Planning and Economic Development, Community Planning Division. I'm an associate planner.
Oh, thank you. Do you have anything to add to Romero's presentation?
That was an excellent introduction. I have nothing to add.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions for Leah?
No, sir.
No. All right. Well, thank you for joining us, Leah.
Thank you.
Ty?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you.
5D on the agenda is setting a public hearing for final regulations for development in floodplains.
Yeah, this is related for you to set a public hearing for you to consider taking a formal action and making permanent adjustments to the flood hazard areas here in the county under Chapter 14.38 of the Thurston County Code. As you may recall, back in June, we asked the board to take somewhat of an expedited action on June 16, 2020, to pass an interim regulation related to the requirements of the Federal Emergency Management Agency, also known as FEMA, to make sure that our code aligns to the new requirements related to the flooding areas. So, and that deadline was June 19, 2020. And again, I'd really appreciate the board be diligent on our request to have an expedited action, because absent that, it would have an impact to the insurance on the flooding areas that we provide to our citizens. So the next step in the process for you to consider those changes via a permanent and final regulation. And before you take that as a final action, you need to set a public hearing. And this is request is for you to set that for November 17, 2020, 3 in the afternoon. And again, Jeremy Davis is here to answer any questions related to this particular proposal.
Jeremy, anything to add?
I would only note that we are proposing, of course, no changes from the interim ordinance the board passed in June. So we're just moving forward with what you've already approved.
Okay, go ahead. Any commissioners, any questions?
No, sir.
No. All right, thank you, Jeremy.
Okay, thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Agenda item number 6 is the ILA with the TRPC.
So this is an interesting item, and the board has exercised this item in the past. And this is a renewed contract with the Thurston County Regional Planning Council. TRPC is the regional organization that receives federal funds and distributes those federal funds and many projects within the Thurston County region, including smaller jurisdictions. As a result of any jurisdiction receiving federal funds requires a lot of paperwork, and also requires a lot of processes in place to make sure that we meet the federal funding guidelines. Also within the context, in order for any agency to be able to manage on their own federal funds, you need to have what we call a CA, a certified agency that is given by the state to the local jurisdictions. In this case, there's many smaller jurisdictions in the county. They don't have the means and methods to manage those federal funds. As a result, they're not able in the past to receive directly this federal allocation to do some of their projects. See, this is a very inventive proposal, and again, we have been exercising this for a few years, where the Thurston County TRPC takes the federal funds, gives to the county to specific county projects. As a result, we take some of the road fund money that is not federal funds, and we allocate to the smaller jurisdictions to do their projects. So, and that is the innovative idea as to how we have been able to contribute to the smaller jurisdictions in order to have the benefit of the federal funds allocation. There is a fee associated with this, and the county takes some of that from the top. But for instance, for the smaller communities, rural communities, and with this particular proposal, there will be $275,000 in 2020 and $275,000 in 2023. But the award to the county will be $755,340, and this is the federal award that will occur. So Teresa Parsons is here if you have any questions related to this particular agreement. And again, this is has been an extremely successful project or program that allows the smaller jurisdictions to get access to federal funds without having the requirements to meet the federal guidelines.
So we have senior civil engineer Teresa Parsons here. Teresa, do you have anything to add?
I do not. The county manager explained that very well. Are there any questions?
It's nice to see you. Any questions, commissioners?
No, sir.
No.
Anything special that South County's got on tap for this that would involve this program that we should know about?
Yeah, so in addition to this, the county stepped up and met with TRPC, the city of Tenino, and towns of Rainier and Bucota to look at potential projects, and we gave some cost estimating support on a couple of projects. So in Bucota, they would like to improve their main street there in front of, there's Joe's Tavern and City Hall. And in Tenino, in front of City Hall, there's a corner that they would like to do some work on, and then a block down, mostly parking and sidewalk work. And then Rainier would like to connect a sidewalk across the highway there, 507, to the Yom Tenino Trail, so that there's good connectivity. There's some development occurring south of the 507 that they want to allow that to happen. So there's most of them have to do with pedestrian connectivity.
Cool. Thank you.
Needs to be safety, I'm sure. That's a good question. Thank you. Anything else, commissioners? No.
No, sir.
Teresa, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
And agenda item number 7 is our wrap up of our week and the week to come. And then at 3 o'clock, we're going to do a public hearing. It's CPED, and it's a 2020 Open Space Tax Program applications.
Yeah, Commissioners, you will receive public testimony related to 4 applications related to get into the Commissioner's Open Space Program. 2 of those applications were part of the Accessory Open Space Program, and they no longer qualify for that particular program. As a result, they apply to come into the county's, the Board of County Commissioners Open Space Tax Program. And you have 2 additional applications. They were submitted under your program as well. You received a couple of briefings of this, and this is the final step, I believe, before you take a formal action. And Krisha Paul is here to answer any questions related to this upcoming public hearing.
Welcome, Chris. Do you have anything to add?
No, I do not.
Okay, commissioners, any questions on this public hearing?
No, sir.
Aye? No? All right, thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
And that concludes the BoCC meeting. Then we'll move into the Transportation Benefit District, and we've already covered that. So now we've been at this for quite some time, and I'm sure staff would enjoy a break. We will take 10 minutes, 10-minute recess, and be back at 10:50. Thank you very much. The Board of County Commissioners agenda work session, agenda setting work session for October 13th, 2020. And the only thing that's changed cast-wise is Commissioner Edwards had to make an appointment. And so you just have Commissioner, the Vice Chair, Commissioner Menser, and myself now for this piece. And we're going off our agenda. The next is proclamations and awards. And Amy Davis, clerk of the board.
Good morning, Commissioners. Amy Davis, clerk of the board. There are no proclamations or awards for review this week.
All right. How about advisory boards and commissions?
There are also no advisory boards and commissions other than the appointment for Eileen McKenzie Sullivan on the agenda for this afternoon, if there are any last minute questions or concerns.
I don't think there's going to be. So then we'll move to Brian Dominique and the PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners and County Manager. Brian Dominique, Public Information Officer for the board. Megan Porter, our Public Information Supervisor, is finalizing negotiations with Comcast for the Comcast franchise agreement, and she hopes to have that wrapped up before the end of the year. And she is also continuing to support public information activities related to the COVID-19 pandemic, and is also awaiting feedback from legal and the policy team on review for the e-signature policy. So those are some of the items she's working on. As for me, this week is Flood Awareness Week. I've been working with emergency management on sharing content about actions the community can take to be flood ready, including purchasing flood insurance, making plans with their families in the event of a flood, and signing up for TC Alert. And as Jeremy Davis over in CPED mentioned earlier, I've been working with CPED on the history book grant rollout that the board will consider next week. My actions there include a news release and an entry into our Friday 5 newsletter. And then, believe it or not, we are in the last quarter of our 2019-2020 communications plan. So over the next few months, I'll be compiling information on what we've achieved over the last 2 years and drafting our 2020-2021 communications plan for our office. So I'll be working on that over the next 90 days. And finally, Public Works is looking for people who have memories, stories, or photos to share about Deschutes Falls Park. They are nearing completion of a new interpretive center at the park and want to include historical photos, stories, or mementos from people in Deschutes Falls. Residents can contact 360-867-2276 or email publicworkscontact@co.thurston.wa.us. Pending any questions, that's all I have.
Oh, very good on that Deschutes Falls Park. I like that. Commissioner Menser, any questions?
No, sir.
I do. Brian, Megan Porter was assigned PIO duties at the Emergency Management Center for several months in the beginning of COVID. And then didn't somebody else get hired or get transferred into that position that gave her some relief, and now she's back again? Or explain that to me.
Yes. So Megan Johnson is the Public Information Officer for the COVID-19 response over at Public Health. I believe that's the relief you're talking about that Megan had. Megan is back in our office full time, but she also serves in a supervisory capacity for Megan Johnson. So that's what she's helping out with.
Oh, got it. Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, sir. All right. That takes us to legislative update. Romero.
I'm still working on the revisions that the commissioners requested on the proposed 2021 county's legislative agenda. So as soon as I'm done implementing those revisions, I'll bring that back to you for a final review.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any public hearing decisions pending?
No, the only one pending, you already addressed that. That was the public hearing related to the road closure down at the Rochester area.
Okay. Now we're getting into commission items, and we only have 3 until we get into any personal ones we may have. Since we have staff on the phone, or I guess we have tax, we'll do it in order. Tax title property hazard tree discussion.
Yes, and thank you for the patience, Treasurer Jeff Cadman. So let me frame this a little bit in perspective. We have many tax title properties, And some of those tax title properties, since the county holds in custody, also has a little bit of a liability when potential trees could damage nearby properties if they fall down. This has been a long-standing issue, at least from since I've been here in Thurston County. We really don't have a program or funding associated to deal with those dangerous trees, as we call it. They're located outside of the right-of-way. Within the county's right-of-way, we do have a program, and Public Works has the means and methods to address dangerous trees. They may be falling in either a private property, or in county roadways. But when it comes to tax title and properties that owns the county, we really don't have a program. So in the past, we have been addressing this on a case-by-case basis. And when a tree has determined that it's dangerous, that perhaps has a potential liability to the county, we bring those items to the Board of County Commissioners to consider taking care of that dangerous trees by taking it down. And also that has to come from the general fund, because there is no other funding mechanism in which we can address the dangerous trees on tax title properties. This is a good example of one of those trees. It is a property. You have Jeff describe where the property is located, and has been determined that it has some potential safety concerns to the nearby properties, and the cost to take this tree down is $521, not to be confused with $522. And the way we're going to be doing this, we're going to be partnering with Public Works to reduce the cost, and as a result, their time and effort will be compensated by the general fund. That is the request before you, and Jeff and Robin are here to add any additional information that perhaps I missed.
Thank you. This is located in the Evergreen Shores neighborhood. And so, it's a plat with, decent sized lots, but when I looked at the overhead photograph from 2018, it's very clear. You can see the tree, everything's green except for this spot. So, but I think this situation, and with our weather we're having today, really highlights what Ramiro was saying about there's no policy in place right now for dealing with these situations. We were notified by the neighbor about 3 weeks ago, I think. If we had a policy, it could have already been taken care of instead of, waiting until we have this windstorm today. And so I really appreciate your attention to this, but my recommendation would be that there be work put forth on getting a policy to deal with some of these liabilities we have. And the liability we have with this, dealing with this, is exactly why I'm trying to market these properties to get them off our hands.
Okay. Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell, go right ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner. Just as a counterpoint to our treasurer, the county researched this about, 5 years ago. And state law is very clear that the county is not responsible to maintain these properties that we receive through tax title. So the risk assessment is why you do not have a policy in place and a program to take care of these. It's because the county is not responsible. And in fact, while I don't advocate not taking care of our citizens who may be harmed by something that happens on one of these properties, but we had an example of a tree that damaged something on a neighboring property, and the county was not held liable for that damage. So I do agree that we need to take care of these issues as we find them, but I think that the concept of having an ongoing policy and program needs further investigation and discussion. So I think that paying this small price, we would pay it out of non-departmental in the general fund at this time is exactly the right thing to do.
Yeah, and that's, I guess that's what I was encouraging, is a robust discussion about this. You know, the tree, the example you gave of the tree falling a few years ago, I mean, that's general case law at this point. If a tree falls, if a tree is on your property and it falls across to the neighbor's property, you're only liable for the portion that's still on your property. That's been tested at case law many, many times. But then you've got the optics, right?
So are you advocating no policy then, Robin, but yet take care of this one issue?
I think that at this time we need to take care of this one issue, and then Romero and Jeff and I can start to have a conversation about where to go in the future.
Okay. Commissioner Mentor, any questions or comments?
No, sounds straightforward to me.
Yeah. Okay, and I'm on board with that. So you need direction, it says, or we need to give direction. I would give you a thumbs up.
Yep, thank you. That's what I'm hearing.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a happy Tuesday. I'm out.
All right, see ya.
Don't
Bye,
drop
Maria.
the mic.
Next, we are going to be talking about 2021 benefit contributions, and we have Maria Ponte and Tara Wickland from HR here. And Director Maria, do you want to start?
Good morning, Commissioners. Maria Ponte, HR Director. With me is Tara Wickline, our Senior HR Analyst, and she's going to walk you through the highest standard plan recommendation for 2021, and then we're available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Hi, Tara.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for letting us take a few minutes of your time this morning. So we are here this morning to recommend what we think is the best plan to be considered the highest standard plan for 2021. To give you a little bit of background, the way that the county pays for our employee benefits, specifically our medical plan, for employees, we pay 100% of the premium up to the premium of what we designate as the highest standard plan. So any employees who are covered on that plan or a less expensive plan don't pay anything for their own coverage. If they choose to go with a more expensive plan, they pay the difference between what the county pays and what that plan costs. For dependent coverage, it's a little different. The county pays 85% of the premium, also still only up to that highest standard plan. So we kind of control costs that way. And then employees pay 15% up to that, cost. If they decide to go with a more expensive plan, employees pay that 15% as well as the difference between what that plan costs versus the highest standard plan that the county will pay for. We are recommending for 2021 that we designate Uniform Medical Plan Plus as our highest standard plan. This is the same plan that has been the highest standard plan for 2020. It's the one that keeps everything pretty much kind of status quo for employees. It was a 2% increase in the Plus plan premiums between 2020 and 2021, which we were pretty happy to see that they came in pretty low. And designating the Plus plan as the highest standard plan, that means that there's 5 of the 8 medical plans are considered standard plans. So there's only 3 plans that employees would have to actually buy up and pay extra for. Now, this is all different when it comes to certain sheriff's office contracts. All of their premiums and what the county pays are based on their contract language, but our structure is pretty much the same for most other employees, non-union, all the 618 unions and all of that. Do you have any questions or?
What does UMP stand for?
Uniform Medical Plan.
That's a company that provides health. That's a health insurer.
It's what the PEB calls their preferred provider plans through the Public Employees Benefit Board, which is where we receive our medical coverage. They basically offer two different types of plans. You have your Kaiser Permanente plans, which are health maintenance organizations. You have to go to certain clinics and see, certain providers. And then they have Uniform Medical Plan, which is a preferred provider type of plan. So that's the kind of plan where you can go to any provider, but you will pay a little less if you go to one of their preferred providers that they're contracted with. It's also the PEB's self-funded plan. So I'm not sure why they called it Uniform Medical Plan, but that's where that name comes from.
Okay, thank you.
Tara, it looks in reading the financial impact on the briefing paper, it says the premiums for the Uniform Medical Plan increased 2% for next year. Is that something that's absorbed by the county and by employees?
Well, we in the proposed budget, we did budget for the chance of having a 4% increase in medical premiums. So going with Uniform Plus, we're actually coming under what is in the proposed budget at this point.
Right. Is that so the county would pick up that 2% increase and not the employee?
No. There's an employer share. That's where the 2% comes in. There's an employee share that the employees will be paying more. And
Okay.
Would you say that employees who are not choosing a standard plan will be paying more?
Correct. Yes.
They pay the difference.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and even the 2%, it is shared between county and employees because we have that 85% and 15% split.
Okay.
On the attachment that we provided to you, commissioners, if you see on that table on the last column, that is the difference on the different plans that an employee will pay between 2020 and 2021 based on the proposal.
All right, thank you.
So one of the things that commissioners have considered in the past is to select a higher level of standard plan and the county would bear additional cost, or as we do with the sheriff's office, the board has at times considered having no shared cost with employees, but those are pretty expensive when you start to consider those things. So this proposal kind of maintains about where we are and mitigates cost to the county.
Okay, so I'm looking at the back here, the pros and cons. And are you recommending, as it says here, maintain the same medical plan?
Correct.
Your standard plan?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And I'll add that we also informed the union, 618 CO, and they were quite pleased that we were staying with this plan. So we have their support.
Good. That's good to hear. That's where I was going next with the employees. I'm concerned with the employees. Okay. Any other questions, Ty?
No.
So what's the next step now?
I'd really would like to have for the board to provide direction on this proposal because the open enrollment is coming up.
Yeah.
And HR needs to exercise your direction based on this proposal.
So prior to the 27th, we need to submit a resolution, get a resolution approved?
Correct.
Okay. Well, you have a thumbs up from me on maintaining the same medical plan as the highest standard.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move forward. Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a great
everyone.
day.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Maria. That takes us to public testimony.
I don't have any follow-up on that, commissioners.
Okay. And then it's an all-scape. Commissioner items, any before we go into an executive session?
I don't believe so. Let me just double check my. Nothing that's.
Brian, hold on.
I'm
Yeah, I
good.
don't either. Okay. Then I will give the warning about the executive session now. How long you would expect that to take,
Well,
Romero?
Commissioners, give us a minute because we don't have the players already in Zoom that will be participating on the executive session. So let me reach out to each one of them to make sure they join. Give us 5 minutes.
Sure. We'll be in recess for 5 minutes, but how long would you expect this to take? 20 minutes, half an hour?
Maybe
15?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. Okay, thank you. We're in recess for 5 minutes. We'll be back at 11:15. is still October 13th, 2020. This is pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection 1D to review negotiations on the performance of publicly bid contracts when public knowledge regarding such consideration would cause a likelihood of increased costs. Relative Eagle View contract. And Commissioner's action may follow. We expect this to last about 30 minutes, and it is 11:19. So we're going into lockdown.
Yep. Let me shut everything down and then should be
Want
ready
to
to
go
go.
flip the sign? Or do you do that?
I'm going to.
Okay.